It is an adaptation of Stephen King's novel of the same name. Is also, I guess, a remake of the miniseries that aired back in 1990 something. The main premise of It is that every 27 years, a kid disappears, and this group of outsiders who is bullied, picked on, has problems with social life and just life in general, investigate these disappearances and come across Pennywise the Clown. And he's pretty terrifying, and he does terrifying stuff. I refuse to put his picture up here because he's fucking scary, like all clowns. Now, the two scariest movies I have ever seen are The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2. I have yet to see The Exorcist, though I hear that that is the scariest movie ever made. Going into It, I thought to myself, if you're a tad below the level of The Conjuring, but you're still scary and entertaining enough, then I'm happy. And the trailers really made it look like that. And to be quite honest, I never watched the miniseries that aired in the 90s. I never read the book, quite frankly, because for both of them, that book is long and that miniseries is long. I don't have the time, and like I said, they're just too long. So, after watching the trailer, I was like, okay, this could be good. I walked out of this movie blown away. It was really, really, really good. Also really terrifying in parts. Praise I have for this movie is the fact that it takes its time to develop its characters and tell a cohesive story. When you look at the runtime for this movie, you should be happy. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes. Not an hour and 20, which is what the average horror movie is. The horror movies today just don't get it, and that's why I really like The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2. They seem to understand it, and I'll give Lights Out a pass, because that's a horror movie I think is actually pretty good, but it really understood what it had to do to be as good as it was. It had to develop its characters and tell a cohesive story. And these characters, I felt for them throughout the whole movie. They were really well written. Following the journey of these characters throughout the movie and seeing them deal with not only middle school problems and bullying, but real life problems in a realistic fashion was a breath of fresh air for a horror movie, because as audience members, we probably all dealt with these problems at some point in our life, whether we were in middle school or high school or elementary school or in our adult lives. We deal with these problems daily or at some point in our lives. Maybe not daily, but just the way the movie unwrapped with the characters, I was just like, this is a realistic portrait of middle schoolers trying to fit in, finding one's place in the world, and being a new voice. Like I said, it was just so refreshing to see a horror movie go down that path, and that's what made the characters so interesting and so investing. Shit, man, I gotta give it up for these actors. The actors that played the kids in the Losers Club, god damn it, they were phenomenal. So this movie really hinged on them. If they were not good actors, this movie would not have worked. I can tell you that right now. Luckily, we got some good kid actors and no more of this shit. Like a weak link out of the 7 of them, not actor-wise, but character-wise, I'd probably go with the germaphobe, because there were times where I was like, he's getting a bit annoying and he's getting on my nerves, but at the same time, he was also tolerable. But granted, with the situation that this movie presents them with, yeah, you'd probably be annoying too. And the biggest praise I have for these characters is the fact that, yeah, they got potty mouths. It's not PG rated, it is R rated. These characters cuss a lot. This movie does not hold back in that department. When these characters are saying dick, shit, fuck, I'm like, middle schoolers say that shit now, so let them say it. This movie, let them do it. Said, this movie doesn't hold back, and when you watch the opening scene unfold before your eyes, you're just like, holy shit, they actually showed that. They showed that! Wait, spoilers here. Watch the movie, you'll know what I mean. the second half of the movie was really scare driven. That was really fun to watch. Not so much in the first half. The first half was kind of building to all of the suspense and the scares that were to come in the second half, which I really appreciated, to be honest with you. I sat there in the theater and I was like, this really isn't that scary to this point. But then I thought about it on my train ride home and I was like, the movie did that on purpose because they're trying to get the audience geared up to expect the worst in the second half. The first half does have frightening imagery and some tense moments, but it's more building to what the movie is trying to scare you with. There's this one scene in the second half involving Pennywise and a projector. Scared the shit out of me. The movie really ratchets up the scares in the second half, and it really earns those scares because the characters are so well thought out and so well written, and the story is so cohesive and not convoluted like we see in a lot of horror movies, that it was so easy to follow, and that just thinking, it's clowns, man. Clowns are scary, so when you have a clown on screen, that's going to be scary. And it was. Pennywise, played brilliantly by Bill Skarsgård, was excellent in this movie. Still not showing you a picture of him. Don't want that shit scaring people on the screen. The way the movie really earns its scares is that none of these scares are really all that cheap. Even when the movie's not that scary, you still get a sense that these characters are in danger, that something is coming after them. And you really root for them. And that's honestly what I want from characters in a horror movie. Also, pay really close attention to the lighting in each scene. How each scene is lit really plays a big role into how they try to get you scared when Pennywise comes on screen. Whether it's a shadow moving on the wall, or a figure moving really fast across the screen, or just something of color that really looks off and doesn't fit in with the other colors in that scene. It's stuff like that that really make me appreciate horror movies, and you could tell that each shot that had those techniques was really well thought out to try and scare the audience. That was a brilliant idea. Muschietti directed the shit out of this movie. He had a vision. You could tell that he wanted to translate that onto screen for the audience, and he did it. He did it to a T. It worked really, really well. Great job with the directing. There's a bit CGI in this movie. Some of it was a little obvious, but I mean, for the most part, it was really good. And when they used practical effects, the practical effects were also really nailed. They hammered those home, made it as scary as possible with the practical effects. I have a real complaint with this movie. It's the adult characters. Not that they're not in it enough and not well developed, because I get it. This movie's supposed to focus on the losers club, who are the kids, but I just feel like the adults in this movie come across as pure idiots. I feel like they're really dumb. That's my big problem with the adults in this movie. Every time they were on screen, I was just like, this is stupid. You're making dumb decisions. You're like regular teenagers in terrible horror movies, to be honest with you, and the kids are actually a lot smarter than you. So, suck it. It was really interesting to see a horror movie that had really well thought out teenage characters that really deal with not only this demonic entity, but real life problems and the coming of age. That was the most interesting part of the movie, and the scares come second. The scares are also really good, like I said. But I think the characters are what make this movie really good, other than the scares. I am going to give it an A. Check this one out, guys. Definitely check it out. This is a really good horror movie, one of the best I have seen in a long time. Thank you for watching my review of it. You guys are awesome. You can like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, you're on YouTube, subscribe at the end of this video, check out some other reviews I have done, and I'll see you next time.